Hey guys, it's Thor Sandalwood today, and I'm talking about past lives because so much of our birth chart and what we see in astrology is the result of our past lives or parallel lives, if you want to think about it that way. So, our past lives are what influence our chart. Every planet and every sign and every house is the result of what we've done in past lives. So if you're born and you've had a lot of problems with money, obviously there was some issues with money in past lives. And this lifetime you're meant to try to correct that karma or live that karma and experience that karma. So when we're thinking about past lives, there's several houses we can look at within a astrological birth chart to kind of get an idea of what kind of past lives someone may have had. So one of the things we want to look at as far as past lives goes, we want to check the second house of a birth chart. And the reason we look at a second house is because that usually indicates the childhood. And if you guys know your childhood, you know, how you were raised, your family, your parents, a lot of those issues that you have in the remainder of your life all stem from that early period of your life. So that's why they call that, that period is so close to your most recent lifetime. And that's why that period of life influences us so much throughout our lifetimes. So we can always check to see what planets are in the second house to really see what kind of past lives we've had. So say if you have the sun in the second house, it could show that you're of a royal lineage, that you had some royal past lives. It can also show that you've had past lives as a performer or somebody like that. The next thing we can look at is we can take a look at the 12th house in your chart, because the 12th house is that place that is the astral bridge. And 12th house represents dreams and things like that, but it represents the spirit world. So a lot of times we can get clued into what type of astral personality we have based on our past lives through looking at the 12th house. So a lot of times people go visit foreign countries, and that's what the 12th house represents. And when they visit those foreign countries that are foreign to the native, they come across situations and people that they may recognize from past lives that they may have spent in another culture. In fact, a lot of times when you live in another culture, or you go stay in another culture for a prolonged time, you're going to notice that there's certain memories that get triggered, certain samskaras. And so there might be places where you feel like you have some sort of affinity towards, even if you don't even speak the language. You feel some sort of connection with that place. So that usually can indicate past lives in that type of country or environment. The next place we're going to look at when we're talking about past lives in an astrological chart is going to be where K2 is. And that axis right there is so important in every birth chart. Because remember, wherever Rahu is in your chart is going to be where your soul is actually lacks experience. It doesn't have a lot of experience from past lives. So Rahu is going to be that place where you're trying to learn new things with this current life because you haven't gained those experiences in the past lives. And K2 is going to be the been there, done that type of planet. So wherever K2 resides as a house and as a sign, and if there's planets next to K2, it's all going to indicate what type of past lives you've had or what type of past life experiences you've had. For example, if we look at K2 and what sign it is in, if you have K2 in Sagittarius, you may have spent lifetimes as a very religious person, a monk, somebody like that. So I went through a past life regression myself, and I have K2 in Sagittarius. And when I went through that past life regression, I have some very strong memories that got resurfaced of a lifetime during the Middle Ages where I was seeing a lot of cathedrals and a lot of ancient churches that I would visit a lot as during that lifetime. So we can always go through and check out those kind of lifetimes through past life regressions, and also looking at your astrological birth chart just to confirm the things that you're seeing. If you have K2, say, in the sign of Aries, I had a client recently where, the chart indicated like, hey, you have a lot of past lifetimes as a warrior. You were a soldier. I mean, think of what Aries is. Aries represents the god of war. It represents fighting, conflict. But then, it can represent good things, though. You could have been a soldier for Dharma. You could have been a soldier for righteousness, just like when we read about Krishna in the Bhagavad Gita, when he's talking to Arjuna, that he was being a warrior for something good, for something that was very righteous that he needed to do. So past lives, what they do is they really affect every part of the birth chart. So when we look at the overall birth chart and where the planets and the houses are, that's all a result of your past lives. So, but when we're looking at specifically, okay, how was the most recent past life, that's when we're going to be looking at like second house, 12th house, where K2 is, to try to get a little information on what exactly those past lives are. And so when you have a birth chart, it's not all that karma is bad. A lot of times you have good karma from past lives. You have karmic credit. So you have karmic debits and you have karmic credits on the other hand. So that's the way you got to look at your birth chart. Really, in the grand scheme of things, karma is very neutral when we're looking at karma. So it's our human, we're emotional creatures. So we like to put labels on this experience was bad. This experience was good. So that's really what happens when we label those situations. It's all of our emotional tags that we put on situations. So, life is really just a series of pictures that we put emotional tags on it. That's why someone getting married is so important, or the birth of a child, things like that, because they're very emotional experiences that we have when we do that. So our past life karma is really, we are a culmination, excuse me, of that past life karma. So think about that. And your spiritual development from past lives indicates, where you're at in this current lifetime. For example, I just came across a few charts recently where they were showing, the sun in the 8th house. And I got this impression, and I was looking at the chart and I said, hey, you're meant to be a healer in this lifetime. You have that special blessing from the sun being in the 8th house, because wherever the sun is in the chart shows where we have a special gift, where we have special illumination of that sign and of that house. So I told the client, you have a natural healer. You're meant to heal trauma. You're meant to do those kind of things, heal things. And so this is so important when we look at the chart and all the things that this correlates to. So, for example, in my own chart, I have my second house. I have both Saturn and Mars in the second house. And if you guys know, Saturn and Mars, they're not friends at all. So Mars is this fiery planet. It's friends with the sun and so forth. And then Saturn is this cold, really dark, distant planet, that's the farthest place. So you got a really cold planet and a really hot planet. And, Saturn and the sun are not friends at all. So in my birth chart, with Saturn and Mars being in then that second house, it shows in a big pivotal event during my childhood was when my parents got divorced. And that shows that it shows those two factions and what happened with that. I mean, it literally illustrates that in the birth chart. So there must have been some carryover issues with relationships and the family members in the relationships I was involved in. So that's the kind of stuff you can look at. So childhood is always going to be an important place to look at. Even if you're not familiar with your birth chart, you always want to look at your childhood and look at the issues you had. Were you teased as a child? Were you, did you have some family situations that happened as a child? And a lot of times those are the result, because there's a certain amount of, when we're born into a new lifetime, there's a certain amount of momentum of that previous lifetime that gets manifested into the current lifetime, and especially in the childhood when you're not really aware as a child. Like, think about your degree of consciousness as a child. You're not really conscious enough to make full adult decisions when you're a young child. So that's where you see that past life bleed over coming in and really influencing your circumstances and so forth. So that's how we look at past lives, and that's how we really judge what kind of karma you have going on with your past lives. And guys, thank you so much for watching this video. If you like this kind of content, like and subscribe for more content like this. Also, if you guys are interested in a personal private reading to look at your karma and what's going on, check out my website, thorsandalwood.com. And thank you guys for watching, and I'll see you guys in the next one.